Now start the prayer, Mona Lisa.
Okay, sir. Please close your hands. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunatu Sahaviryam Karvavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidishavahai Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you.
Thank you, Mona Lisa.
Thank you, sir.
It is nice that Rumela Sengupta has joined here. She is from Netherlands. So one from Bangladesh, another from Netherlands. This is nice too. Okay. Today's program schedule, invocation already played by Mona Lisa. So I am going to the next one. On behalf of Ravindra Psychotherapy Research Institute, I welcome you all to the 18th Sunday webinar. And this is our website. And this is our email. And this is our logo. The meaning of logo is like this. Consciousness has 3 layers in Ravindric psychotherapy. We are dealing with the Ravindric psychotherapy. Ravindric psychotherapy is not the pioneering development of Rabindranath Tagore. It is not like that. It is not the life story of Rabindranath Tagore. Okay. But it is based upon some of the postulates. Those postulates are extracted from Rabindranath Tagore's composition. So I have observed 3 layers of consciousness: Murta, Rag, and Saraswat. So consciousness has 3 layers in Ravindric psychotherapy. Color of Murta layer is gray. It is the seat of attention, sensation, and perception. Middle area is Rag layer, seat of feeling, emotion, memory, thinking, and their associations. It is colorful and filled with different flows in consciousness. So there are different flows. The broad 2 flows are the turbulent flow. Another flow is the laminar flow. I have explored this flow through the counseling, through psychotherapy, and I have noted that these flows are related to the theories of Archimedes. And here you can find the oceanic flow, this turbulent flow, and the laminar flow. Here you will find the laminar flow. This is the Saraswat layer, and this is the Rag layer. So when our locus of consciousness lies at the Murta layer, you will find the turbulent flow. When our locus of consciousness lies at the Rag layer, it will be, here again you will find the turbulent flow. But when the consciousness locus of consciousness reaches at the Saraswat layer, then you will feel the seat of harmony with surroundings, the aesthetic and way to creativity and innovation. So this is the laminar flow. This is the laminar flow area. When you will feel laminar flow in your consciousness, then you can create something new. But when you will be in turbulent flow, your decision-making power will be seriously affected.
হ্যাঁ
প্লিজ কথা বলবেন না কেউ, অন্য কেউ কথা বললে মুশকিল হয়ে
বসুন।
Okay, now Tamasho ma Jyotir Gamaya. The meaning is there are different fixed and randomized error on our response pattern. So our aim is to remove, is to control the fixed and randomized error. And this logo has been drawn by Ms. Sudipta Majumdar. And initially our institute started Rabindic Psychotherapy Research Institute. At that time, this word trust was not there. So finally, Ms. Shobita Chakraborty, she has added the word trust here. So this is our program schedule. Initially, Rabindra Sangeet will be played by Ritika Sarkar, Senior Research Fellow. And next, I will say few words about our institute activities. After that, our technical session that will start. Next, we will present the dance and finally the vote of thanks. এখানে আমার একটা জিনিস অ্যাড করা হয়নি, আমি এটাকে অ্যাড করে দেই। Rabindra's Psychotherapy Research Institute Trust is not the family trust. We have the trustees. It is an academic trust. It is registered under the Indian Trust Act 1882. We 5 members are the founders of the trust. Ms. Sudipta Majumdar, Dr. Rama Manna, Dr. Subroto Barshak, me and Professor Shitanshu Khatua. This is the academic achievement of Rabindra's Psychotherapy Research Institute Trust in 2020. We have designed several courses: story therapy, dance therapy, drawing therapy, educational dance for children, career counseling, data science, environmental science, forensic psychology. Currently, story therapy is managed by Ms. Annesha Mukherjee, dance therapy by Ms. Alokparna Roy, drawing therapy by Ms. Ishita Pal, educational dance for children, that is by Shayan Chakraborty, career counseling, it is going to be completed very soon. Currently, it is by Ms. Shoumitri Bagh. Data science, it is divided now. So there is no such course just now because we do not have any academic assistant. Environmental science is managed by Ms. Shobita Chakraborty, and forensic psychology by Ms. Meghumala Mukherjee. So this is our research. We have identified a few aptitude of the story therapist, and we have done very good work on the psychology in dance, and especially in the Kathak dance. We have observed the psychophysics in Kathak dance. Mathematical modeling of Rabindra Sangeet and human value system. We have already explored the 14 path-oriented and 14 goal-oriented values. And we have noted that is the personality traits that can be explored through the mathematical modeling of Rabindra Sangeet. We have done that work. Next is the profile matching based career counseling. This is very interesting area, especially we are using our value system. Dance-based English learning. This is another innovation. Next is the pro-environmental attitude scale construction. We have already developed the pro-environmental attitude scale, but we have not validated still now. So we have started one course on environmental science, and we are expecting few students from national and international areas so that we can achieve the sustainable goals of the UNESCO. We have done some international webinar with Philippines and Greece. This is basically the peace psychology. And some works with the Bangladesh related to the psychometry and also the Rabindra's psychotherapy. We have done some national webinar with IAHP, Indian Academy of Health Psychology, that is related to the forensic psychology, and collaboration with the INSPA, Indian School Psychology Association. The president of INSPA, Professor Pancharamalingam, came, and he gave very beautiful lecture on the counseling. We have conducted a free Sunday webinar, and we have done some college collaboration. This is the vision of the institute: to design the educational courses for sustainable universal peace. So this universalism peace, and the sustainability. These three are very much related to the sustainable goal of the UNESCO. And this sustainable goal we can find in Tagore's philosophy. This is our research goal, that is self-awakening, Antaro Mamo Bikoshito Karo Antaro Taro He. So that song reflects self-awakening. She is our student Debarati. She is suffering from problems, some COVID or Corona related. And at that time, she has developed this particular pose, you can say, a very nice design. So that is the freedom of imagination. It comes to my mind. Okay, now next one is the universal peace. Here you find that Tagore and Mahatma Gandhi. Sustainable environment. Another one is the harmony. The song is Amra Shabai Raja Amaderi Rajar Rajotte Noile Moda Rajar Shane Milbo Ki Satte. So that shows the harmony. And we will explore something more in near future. So this is the achievement of our institute in this week, that is from 15th to 22nd November, under the supervision of Ms. Soumita Chakraborty. All the students of the course titled Attitude Scale Construction on Environmental Science has received course completion certificates. They could develop one questionnaire on pro-environmental attitude. Professor Amon Borkar, Assistant Professor TISS, and Professor Rajoshi Roy, Department of Education, Vishwabharati Shantiniketan, visited our institute dated 6/11/20 for taking Viva Voce. We have completed selection of guest faculties for the forthcoming course on forensic psychology. Ms. Meghomala Mukherjee designed and circulated the flyer for student admission. Dr. Priyanka Kaske of Gujarat Forensic Science University facilitated the course. Following the success of earlier course, Ms. Soumita Chakraborty announced the course of environmental science. Guest faculty selection is in process. We need good research workers for assisting Ms. Soumita Chakraborty to compose book. Under the supervision of Alokparna Roy, we have launched Psychology in Dance with Rabindra Nitya. Institute is trying to incorporate Bharatanatyam through one specialized institute. So this is our academic achievement. Ms. Irene Chattopadhyay, student of Career Counseling course, has presented a research paper titled Face Validation of Questionnaire Measuring Attitude Toward Environmental Sensitivity and Recycling in the 10th International Conference of Indian School Psychology Association, dated 7/11/2020. It was organized by Aligarh Muslim University. Ms. Ramona Singha Roy of the Adamas University and Ms. Ushmita De of NSHM College have received Best Paper Awards from the 10th International Conference of Indian School Psychology Association, dated 7/11/2020. It was organized by Aligarh Muslim University. Both contributed ideas in the Sunday webinar of our institute. So this is our status. Ravindra Psychotherapy Research Institute Trust was established on 1st July 2018. The trust is educational by nature and to carry out research in academic field and to promote the study and dissemination of knowledge of Ravindra psychotherapy based on the works of Rabindranath Tagore for the welfare of the community at large without discrimination of caste, creed, etc. with objects and constitution are here as herein after set forth. It is a non-profit making trust registered under Indian Trust Act 1882. Now, here is our student, Ms. Srija Banerjee. She has recently completed one course. So this is her verbatim.
Very good morning, everyone, and wishing everyone a very happy and safe Diwali. I am Ms. Rija Banerjee, and currently I am a third year psychology honor student. I pursued this internship attitude skill construction on environment under Rabindric Psychotherapy Research Institute Trust, obviously under the guidance of our respected Dr. Devdulal Dottorai sir, Dr. Ashok Kanti Sanyal sir, Professor Neeta Mitra ma'am, as well as our dearest academic coordinator, Mrs. Shomita Chakraborty. Here we learned how to construct an attitude skill, the basics of constructing an attitude skill, how to mold the important elements that are related to the construction of skill into a successful skill. Moreover, we got a very broad account of what environment is, what attitude is, and lastly we learned about how to create a Google form to collect the data, as well as we learned very basics of interpreting the data as well. So yes, I would say that I benefited a lot from this course, and I look forward to pursue more courses under RPRIT. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Srija. Now I am presenting you the Ravindra Nitya by Miss Amrita Pal Boshak. Ms. Boshak is a student of our course titled Psychology in Kathak and Ravindra Nitya. She has completed this course, and again she has joined for another course. Thank you, Amrita. Here, I like to show that two things. One is the SOR model of the performer, and we are the perceiver. We have the SOR, and the model is SOR, that is SOO1, that is the performer, and SOR, that is the O2, that is the perceiver. So when these two are matched with each other, then you will get the flow, you will experience the flow in your consciousness. And another important issue is the synchronization of the lyrics and the hand, body movement, posture, expression, etc. in the dance. This synchronization is important to create the flow in the consciousness. So now I am going to start the first technical session. Actually, we do not have two technical sessions, only one session we have. I am very much thankful to Professor Debarati Bandhapadhyay for her acceptance to give this invited lecture. The topic is Tagore's vision on eco-consciousness and eco-sustenance. Again, this topic is related to the sustainable goal of UNESCO. Professor Debarati Bandhapadhyay teaches at the Department of English, Vishwabharati, Shantiniketan. She has been a postdoctoral fellow during 2010 to 11 at the UGC-sponsored Rabindranath Tagore Center for Human Development Studies, jointly under Calcutta University and the Institute of Development Studies, Kolkata. She is the International Visiting Fellow at the University of Essex in 2017 and in 2018.
ना ना वो 3-4 दिन नहीं आया 3-4 दिन नहीं आया और काज खत्म होएगी तो आएगी
साउंड আসছে কেন প্লিজ মিউট ইওর
স্যার আপনি মিউট করে দিন সবাইকে
মাইক্রোফোনটা মিউট না করলে মুশকিল হয়ে যাবে
আপনি মিউট করে দিন ওখান থেকে আপনার কাছ থেকে
Okay. Sorry for the interaction. Okay, sorry for the interruption. Ravindra Psychotherapy Research Institute Trust is grateful to Professor Debarati Bandhapadhyay. Professor Bandhapadhyay has accepted our invitation to give one invited lecture titled Tagore's Vision on Eco-Consciousness and Eco-Sustenance. The title is related to the sustainable goal of UNESCO. Professor Debarati Bandhapadhyay teaches at the Department of English, Vishwabharati, Shantiniketan. She has been a postdoctoral fellow during 2010 to 11 at the UGC-sponsored Rabindranath Tagore Center for Human Development Studies, jointly under Calcutta University and the Institute of Development Studies, Kolkata, or IDSK. She is the International Visiting Fellow at the University of Essex in 2017 and in 2018. She is visiting fellow at Glasgow University and visiting scholar at the Scottish Centre of Tagore Studies at Edinburgh Napier University, respectively, working on eco-criticism and new nature writing. Our 2019 publications include Rabindranath Tagore, A Life of Intimacy with Nature, and as sole editor, Rabindranath Tagore, select writings on cosmopolitanism and essays on Tagore and translation. So I am requesting Professor Debarati Bandhapadhyay to start her presentation. And here I like to stop my sharing. So Professor Bandhapadhyay, you are here. We are grateful to you, madam.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
And many eminent persons are here. And they are from Bangladesh, one from Netherlands, and some of the eminent people in India, they have joined here. And everybody will listen to your voice, to your presentation through the YouTube. Okay, madam? So,
Thank you.
madam, please start.
To all of you.
So, do you want, madam, any PowerPoint presentation, or you want to speak?
No, I'm just going to speak a little.
Okay, okay, madam. Thank you.
Thank you. So, a very good morning to all of you. I express my humble gratitude towards your august institution, and especially Professor Devdulal Dr. Roy for inviting me to speak in front of you, this august audience. I would like to talk about Tagore and his eco-consciousness and the way this took us towards a certain kind of an idea about eco-sustenance, which is very valuable for our survival, collective survival today. In this context, I would begin by saying that we human beings are rather selfish creatures. As human beings, we are very much accustomed to paying a lot of attention to ourselves. Human beings keep on thinking of human activities, human achievements, human aims, human ambitions that continue to extend the domain of control over others indiscriminately. And simultaneously, we do not pay attention or pay very little attention to the effects of our decisions and activities on others. But whom do we usually oppress as these others? To us, human beings, sometimes the other is perceived in terms of another human being. For example, in terms of race, sometimes species even. We are not always very kind or friendly towards all the other species in the world. And sometimes we think of nature, the overall overarching idea of nature as the other. In other words, if I return to the British colonial period in India, the Indian population was vast, but it formed the other to the imperial self of the British. And when the human population could be perceived as the other, it is very easy to understand that the other would be somebody, something that would be unknown, mysterious, and whatever is mysterious to us is taken as something dark, a dark force, an unknown quantity of unknown quality. Therefore, it is perceived as a threat. And the moment we begin to perceive somebody or something as the other, the threat is to be contained, controlled. And in British India, the smaller British population, administrative persons, control the vast numbers of Indians, the entire population, so to say, And we all know the story of the economic exploitation, the political oppression. So I'm talking about so many years, 200 years almost. But in this vast and continuous human history of our entire lifespan on Earth, human lifespan on Earth, and the history of the selfish, exploitative activities that we have undertaken so far, I start by referring to this particular British period in India for one reason only. The fact that Rabindranath Tagore, 1861 to 1941, spent his entire lifetime in this environment, in this country. He had visited so many countries of the world, but this was his country. And his eco-consciousness remains iconic to the entire humanity, even today. That is why I begin with this particular age, this particular idea. Now, what do we think of nature? Nature in Western idea is something that lies outside us. I am a human being and there is my skin, and beyond my skin, whatever lies outside is nature, a part of nature. In India, we did not have such ideas. Nature is something of which we are a part. It's not as if there is us versus them or self versus other, that kind of a dichotomy in ancient Indian thought regarding nature and individual existence, individual human existence even. But in this case, we find that usually when we talk about the British period, the British Enlightenment, we talk about how Indians learned a lot of things from the British, we begin automatically to think of nature as something that is outside us. So this inside-outside dichotomy has created three kinds of problems. I wouldn't say three kinds of problems. One is a problem. The other two possibly are different ways of looking at this problem in order to try to find some solutions. So what is this basic problem I'm talking about? I'm talking about anthropocentrism. When human beings put themselves at the center of the earth, at the center of every possible activity, without thinking of the consequences in the lives of other living creatures, in the existence of the abiotic components of the world, and we are simply exploitative, consumerist. We think of today and as if today will go on forever and ever, and there is no tomorrow. There is nothing to be sustained, and our future generations are not to be thought of at all. This is the world we inhabit today, very sadly speaking. And the anthropocentric point of view, which puts anthropos or human beings at the center, we have put ourselves at the center of existence. Nobody else has done so. So we have created a lot of problem. We have to acknowledge that. And what are the other two possible points of view which might offer some solution? The second one is the biocentric point of view, in which living organisms, that is animals, and to some of the scientists or thinkers or philosophers, perhaps also plants. And in this context, we must also think of the great friend of our Rabindranath Tagore, Jagadish Chandra Basu. Jagadish Chandra Basu has made it so clear to us that plants have life, plants feel, they have sensitivity, they sense pain and every other stimulus like ourselves. So from the biocentric point of view, all living organisms, whether they're important to us or whether they're harmful towards us, it doesn't matter ultimately. All of them have their rights. All of them have to be paid attention to. So this could be one possible antidote to the crisis created, to the malady created by anthropocentrism. But going beyond that, there is this third possible thing. It is ecocentrism. Now, the word ecology is a beautiful word. And I am making a distinction between environment and ecology in the sense that this is a conscious distinction I'm making. Environment we all know about, the abiotic or non-living parts, basically. And we also sometimes speak of the plants that surround us, the tree cover that is close to our living quarters, etc. As by way of talking about the environment. Or if we are visiting somewhere and we talk about the forests, we talk about the rivers, we talk about the mountain ranges, these are the ways in which we keep on talking about this kind of abiotic factors or the environment of the place there. At the same time, I think ecology is a more beautiful word because though it comes from the world of the biological sciences, and we are not scientists, I am not a scientist, I'm a layperson. But even then, if we forget for a moment that ecologists speak about ecosystems which are self-contained places with their own kind of circulation of energy, etc., ecology refers back to this ancient classical European word eco. This oikos, eco comes from oikos, and oikos refers to home or homestead or house or something like that. And logi comes from logos. So as in economy, we learn about how to regulate the household. Similarly, in ecology, we learn about the home. So what about the home is important? The home in the broadest possible sense can be taken as the earth itself. In this sense, the whole idea of ecology aligns us, teaches us, makes us conscious about our earthly existence, terrestrial existence, the way we live, the way we do not live, and the way we should live, I think. So in this sense, in the ecocentric point of view, we are thinking of the environment, we are thinking of the biotic as well as abiotic factors. The biotic factors will include all kinds of animals, living creatures, and it will include human life. And abiotic factors, what we usually talk about in terms of the environment. So I think the ecocentric point of view is more holistic than the other points of view. And it even includes the ecosystems mentioned by the ecologists. Therefore, with the help of this holistic idea about nature, about about the idea that even if we accept the Western idea of nature as something that lies outside us, we can think of the complete system which helps us survive on Earth. So, in this kind of an ecocentric view or sensibility, I would try to highlight certain moments in Rabindranath Tagore's life because I find these moments very significant in the way his eco-consciousness was formed, and his eco-consciousness grew, and this growth resulted in his activities, his experiments in eco-sustenance. So I will begin by talking about his childhood and move up to say about 30 years of his age, because in order to talk about his entire lifetime, it would be quite impossible in the span of a limited time, a limited period. So I would refer at the beginning to how, when he was about 50 years old in 1912, Rabindranath Tagore was writing from age 47 onwards. He was writing an account of the first 27 years of his life in Jivan Smriti. In Jivan Smriti, it came out as Reminiscences in 1917 in English translation. The translation was done by his nephew, Surendranath Tagore. And I begin with a reference to Jivan Smriti to highlight the significance of memory. Memory and the memory of these certain moments in his life that he himself highlighted. This is how I would try to enter into Tagore's eco-consciousness. This gave shape to his thought, helped him act in a particular way, Therefore, I begin with the first few lines of Jivan Sriti. I would quote, I know not who paints the pictures on memory's canvas, but whoever he may be, what he is painting are pictures. By which I mean that he is not there with his brush simply to make a faithful copy of all that is happening. He takes in and leaves out according to his taste. He makes many a big thing small and small thing big. He has no compunction in putting into the background that which was to the fore, or bringing to the front that which was behind. In short, he is painting pictures and not writing history. Thus, over life's outward aspect passes the series of events, and within is being painted a set of pictures. The two correspond, but are not one. So I find this very significant in terms of psychology. I'm again not a student of psychology, I'm a student of English literature or literature in general, we might say. But the way Tagore talks about the function of memory, the role of memory, and the pictures that we have in our memory versus what we know as the outward history of a person's life and work, this is something significant to me. It is as if we are talking about an artist, a painter, and the painter can bring the foreground to the background to the foreground at will. And why would the painter choose to do such odd things? He would do such so-called odd things in order to highlight specific moments of a person's inner life. The inner life which otherwise remains invisible in the history of the outward activities. Perhaps we can compare a biography written of Tagore with these kinds of autobiographical moments highlighted by himself with reference to memory and painting and the colors, the tinges, the contours of this memory as a painter. It is not something new. I have been actually alerted to this kind of an idea by a book by Sudhir Kakkar, where, in the book is Young Tagore, The Makings of a Genius, published in 2013, I believe. In this book, Sudhir Kakkar referred to the same part of Jivan Sriti, but of course for different purposes. And let's see how I tried to gather from him my kind of idea about moments of consciousness, moments of eco-consciousness. Now, Sudhir Kakkar wrote, I quote, I view the opening sentences of Jivan Sriti as an invitation to a psychological biographer to mine them for emotional truths rather than facts, and thus lay bare the deeper motivations of Rabindranath's life and work that are not available or even possible in his historical biographies. It is not as if a psychological biographer neglects the outer events of his subject's life, but he doesn't want to present a comprehensive picture of every deed of the subject of this biography, a historical biography. What a psychological biography does is to be selective of the events on which it concentrates. Essentially, the psychological biographer believes that the events which comprise his subject's formative experiences lie in the periods of his childhood and early youth, and that a person's psychological truth is preeminently an outcome of his or her early relationships. So Sudhir Kakkar next goes on to talk about these early relationships of Tagore, but I am seeking, a little unlike Kakkar, the ways in which these moments of psychological truth gave rise to Tagore's eco-consciousness. And in this case, we also manage to reach Tagore's mind, I believe. the innermost soul, I believe. I say so because Kakar wrote, the subject of a historical biography may come through as great in achievement, yet remain distant as a person of flesh and blood, devoid of an inner life. I think by touching the psychological life of Tagore, we find the human being, and the human being turns out to be so intensely humane, so humane as to teach us eco-conscious across generations even today. So I'll return to the idea that we find in Jivan Smriti and do my own reading of the first part of Jivan Smriti now. In Jivan Smriti, Tagore wrote, what one has truly felt, if only it can be made sensible to others, is always of importance to one's fellow men. He just a few minutes ago, he had said that my life, no part of my life is of any value. That was a disclaimer that he had already put at the beginning of Jivan Smriti. But he writes very clearly that yes, there is something. If there is something truly felt, it might be of interest to one's fellow men, of importance even. If pictures which have taken shape in memory can be brought out in words, they are worth a place in literature. All said and done, he was a consummate artist. He could paint an entire world with words, and therefore, as a literary figure, as a person who knew the value of consciousness, human consciousness, the way it was built, the way it grew into something of importance to the entire mankind, as revealed over here. He is talking about his own moments of memory. It is as literary material that I offer my memory pictures. So these are memory pictures. And then he says how teaching begins in his own life. And very interestingly, he goes on to say, the first thing he remembers, that first thing that impressed him in the so-called classroom at his own home with his fellow two students, so to say, I am reading the rain patters, the leaf quivers, jol pore pata nore. And he says, for me, this is the first poet of the arch poet, A capital, P capital. So arch poet, Adi Kobi, Mahakobi, that kind of an idea had already been there, always been there in his writing. So jol pore pata nore, these simple words taught to children is the first poem of the arch poet to him. And the arch poet is, of course, the creator of this universe in a sense, whose handiwork is this possibility of a leaf quivering and a drop of water falling to great musical effect to a person like Tagore, young Tagore even. I realize why rhyme is so needful in poetry. Thus did the rain patter and the leaves quiver again and again the livelong day in my consciousness. So I would say the poetic self had already started growing, but the poetic self was not just a self about literature. It was not just a consciousness, growing consciousness about literature, rhyme, rhythm, etc. It was integrally related with his sense, his feeling, his perception of nature, as in Jol Pore Pata Nore. The other literary delight, he talks about two literary delights in his childhood days. The other literary delight that still lingers in my memory, he writes, is the infant's classic. The rain falls pit-a-pat, the tide comes up the river. Brishti pore tapur tupur, node elo ban. So we see the ways in which nature began to form his poetic as well as literary consciousness. And that is a fact we cannot escape. Literary and nature consciousness integrally related to his childhood days, childhood consciousness, growing consciousness. This would lead to some greater idea very soon. And this idea is something we find in the next section of Jivan Smriti, It is called Within and Without, very significantly called Within and Without. Ontore bahire, reminding us of ghore baire, not in the political sense, not in other senses, but really the confinement for the young boy within the room and the greater world of nature lying outside, which he wanted to touch, which he wanted to be a part of. But there was this barrier, there was this door which he couldn't get out of. There were the walls, but there was a window. We are all reminded, those of us who have read Jivan Smriti, we are all reminded of the terrifying and somewhat mischievous figure of Sham, one of the younger servants of their household who would control their lives like a dictator. Sham would put me into a selected spot and tracing a chalk line all around, warn me with solemn face and uplifted finger of the perils of transgressing this ring. We are reminded of the Lakhon Rekha. And the idea is that there is this great fear put in him by his knowledge of Ramayana, no doubt. But just below this chalk circle, just beyond this chalk circle, there was the window. And there was beyond the window a tank. And a tank with steps where most of the men of the neighborhood would come to take a bath. And the way he describes it, he says, ringed round as I was near this window, I would spend the whole day peering through the drawn Venetian shutters, gazing and gazing on this scene as on a picture book. From early morning, our neighbors would drop in one by one to have their bath. I knew everything about their habits. That is what he suggests. But then, during the afternoon, after a certain point of time, in literally after noon, it would go on. Then the bathing place would be deserted and become silent. Only the ducks remained paddling about after water snails or busy preening their feathers the livelong day. And when the solitude reigned over the water, my whole attention would be drawn to the shadows under the banyan tree. This banyan tree with its aerial roots creeping down along its trunk, this was like a grand old grandfather to him, and he dreamt his daydreams. He imagined worlds around this shadows, the shadows that he could find near the banyan tree. He was not even able to make it intelligible through language. And therefore, only much later could he write about this banyan tree, with tangled roots hanging down from your branches, O ancient banyan tree. You stand still day and night like an ascetic at his penances. Do you ever remember the child whose fancy played with your shadows, etc.? And then he laments, the adult 50-year-old poet, Rabindranath Tagore, laments, the banyan tree is no more. The people who took their bath over there are no more. And the boy, grown older, is counting the alternations of light and darkness which penetrate the complexities with which the roots he has thrown off on all sides have encircled him. The material world was too much with Tagore by the age of 50, he realized. And the aspirations about being at one with nature that he had harbored in his childhood, it seemed as if nature remained still as far away as ever. Going out of the house was forbidden to us. He remembers about his childhood. And he says, even within the house, we were not given the freedom to move freely into all its parts. Then we would peep at nature from behind the barriers. Beyond my reach, there was this limitless thing called the outside. I think this is why he repeatedly thought of this big outside with a capital O throughout his life, because he always remembered nature as something inaccessible. Human beings have created so many barriers of materialism, so many walls of materialism around themselves, that they have cut themselves off from nature. And this is something he lamented throughout his life because of his childhood experience. He could never forget that the chalk ring drawn around him by Sham. It is as if even a mature Rabindranath Tagore could feel the effects of that chalk ring. So he wrote, it seemed that there is this thing called outside, of which flashes and sounds and scents used momentarily to come and touch me through its interstices. It seemed to want to play with me through the bars with so many gestures, but it was free and I was bound, and there was no way of meeting. Therefore, the attraction was all the stronger. And that is why later on he says, he went on to write Khachar Pakhi Chilo, and the difference between the Khachar Pakhi and the Boner Pakhi. The chalk line had been wiped away by time, but the confining ring is still there. The distant remains still as distant, the outside is still beyond me. I am reminded of what I was trying to say at the beginning today about the other. The other is something which is beyond us, which is outside us, I said. And in this sense, in the Rabindric sense, this other is given a completely different interpretation, I believe, because the other becomes this outside, this great outside of nature, no doubt. And this other is something which he ran towards, which he hankered for throughout his life. And that is why we talk about the wonderful nature poetry. We talk about a wonderful eco-consciousness in Tagore, because to him, this was what he aspired to reach this outside, to be at one with this outside. To him, the other was not dark or mysterious in the sense that it would be thought of as a threat. It was something beautiful. It was something taken from the pages of a fairy tale to him. And he loved fairy tales, such fairy tales. This was strange, and the call of the strange, the call of the other, was something that inspired him, not only in his literary works, but in his works of eco-sustenance. I am reminded also of something like he expressed his attraction towards Shudur, Bipulo Shudur. That is the sense that I get over here repeatedly when I read the first pages of Jivan Sriti. And he says that, okay, a few lines later, he had just been talking about the Khachar Pakhi and the Boner Pakhi, the caged bird and the free bird, etc. And then he returns to the description of his surroundings in his childhood. It says there were parapets, and we were not very tall. Therefore, we couldn't see what was there beyond the parapets, etc. And then he says, in the middle of the day, when everybody would have possibly fallen asleep in their household, and the crows would be picking at the leavings thrown on the refuse heap at the corner of the yard, in the solitude of the tinderville, the caged bird. Then who is the caged bird? He would definitely always, in a way, think of the caged bird and think of himself. So he would say at that interval, the caged bird would, through the gaps in the parapet, commune bill to bill with the free bird, nature outside. I would stand and gaze, see the row of coconut trees. Shingi's Bagan was there. It was a world of mystery to me. And whatever was beyond that. The roofs of the houses, treetops, the grayish blue of the eastern horizon, and like the beggar at the palace door, he imagines impossible treasures to be held in the strong rooms close to him. I can hardly tell of the wealth of play and freedom which these unknown dwellings seem to be crowded with. This is the way he always wanted to play outside, but he couldn't in his childhood. So what happened after that? When he was growing up, he had 2 or 3 more wonderful experiences. And these experiences taught him more and more the value of the within and the without, the ghar and the bahir, the antar and the bahir, the ghore and the baire. So in what sense did it become possible? This oneness with nature that he would go on to feel throughout his life? This became possible. He says that there was dengue raging in Kolkata once upon a time, and our extended family had gone to Chatu Babu's house, and there was the first one. He says that was his first outing, And there he found the Antappurer Choto Bagan, and at the same time the vast Ganges in front of him. And the sight of this Ganga, the vastness of the moods of the clouds floating over the land and the water, this is what liberated his soul to a great extent, he says. And he wanted to see desperately rural areas, the trees, the hearths, the ponds, the ducks, etc. at first hand. But he was not given permission. He tried once, but he was caught and sent back. That was another moment that he wanted to talk about. And then we all know about his sacred thread investiture ceremony and how Maharishi Devendranath Tagore, his father, took him to Bolpur first, and then Amritsar, and then the Himalayas, Dalhousie, etc. And during that journey, that travel beyond Kolkata, beyond Bengal, towards the other parts, he was gradually turning into an adventurer. One way of communing with nature is the way of the sage, the philosopher, the seer, the prophet, the great sages of the ancient world. The other way is the child's way, possibly. The child who wanted to play in the lap of nature. And this child, when he was 11 years, some months old, this child, Rabindranath Tagore, he got that opportunity in Bolpur, in Shantiniketan, and he became a living stone. This living stone, young living stone, would find streams, would find the supply of water welcome from such a tiny stream found by the young boy. The father encouraged him in these adventures, and his spirit was liberated all the more, all over again. If his moments of growth were to be traced in this way, I am repeatedly remembering these as his crucial moments of memory. And if we think of the young boy growing, learning about the ancient Vedic principles, etc., through his father's teachings in the cold Himalayan winds early in the morning, after taking a bath, cold bath, and that 11-year, some months old boy learned about a lot at the Himalayas, like the earlier sages. But then, when he came back to Calcutta, did this teaching stay with him that we are a part of nature, I'm at one with nature? Was it possible for a young boy to retain this kind of an idea in the middle of the pressure exerted on him by some alien kind of education which he never liked? We find that when he grew up a little more, there were moments when he returned to this earlier kind of ideal kind of oneness, feeling of oneness with nature. And for that, I would refer to, again, Jivan Smriti. I am quoting a lot from Jivan Smriti today, it seems. Yes, but in Jivan Smriti, he says, one day, late in the afternoon, I was pacing the terrace of our Jorashako house. And there is the afterglow of the sunset, and the twilight is there. And the light and the approaching evening have created a specially wonderful attractiveness for me. Even the mundane walls of the adjoining house seem to grow beautiful. In this uplifting of the cover of triviality from the everyday world, I wondered, was it due to some magic? Never. He said, I could see that it was the effect of the evening which had come within me. Now, how can the effect of the evening come within a human being? Evening is something that we look at and appreciate the sunset, and that's about it for the major part of the people, majority of the people, so to say. But for Rabindranath, its shades had obliterated my self. While the self was rampant during the glare of day, Everything I perceived was mingled with and hidden by it. Now that the self was put into the background, I could see the world in its own true aspect. And that aspect has nothing of triviality in it. It is full of beauty and joy. This moment was the moment he had been waiting for all his life. Later on, he felt. Because at this moment, he could obliterate the self. I started by talking about this self and the other, the individual who actually puts the greatest price on himself or herself, and no price or little price on everything that lies outside the other, so to say. And Rabindranath was able on this afternoon, with evening approaching, in a moment to feel the self getting obliterated. The self is taken out of the equation. What remains? All else, the entire world. And he felt that world was filled with beauty and joy. He tried to replicate this experience voluntarily. I don't know whether it is possible to replicate this kind of an experience voluntarily or not, but he tried, he says. I repeatedly tried the effect of deliberately suppressing myself and viewing the world as a mere spectator, and was invariably rewarded with a sense of a special pleasure. I remember that I tried to talk about this to a relative, he says, and of course I failed miserably. I couldn't convey my feelings to anybody. So language has its limitations. Language, verbal or written, we perhaps can sense his burgeoning consciousness about being at one with the world. But when the young man tried to talk about this to his relative, he couldn't express it in spite of his rich accumulation of words by that time. Language has its limitations then. But then he gained a further insight, which lasted all his life, he says. And this is this famous Shodor Street incident. He says, at the end of Shodor Street, and the trees on the preschool grounds opposite were visible from our Shodor Street house. One morning, I happened to be standing on the veranda looking that way. The sun was just rising through the leafy tops of those trees. As I continued to gaze, all of a sudden, a covering seemed to fall away from my eyes, and I found the world bathed in a wonderful radiance with waves of beauty and joy swelling on every side. This radiance pierced in a moment through the folds of sadness and despondency which had accumulated over my heart and flooded it with this universal light. The very day the poem, The Awakening of the Waterfall, gushed forth, Nirjhare Shapnobhango, taken as one of the most momentous things in his life, the composition of this poem. And I am also, as I was listening to Professor Dr. Roy today morning, I was also reminded of this part, one way of approaching the idea of tamaso ma jyotirgamaya, the darkness within suddenly removed, the self emerging into a brightness, a light that never leaves one, that never left Rabindranath Tagore. And from this time onwards, what he had seen, he says that from infancy, I had seen only with my eyes. I now began to see with the whole of my consciousness. So he absorbed the entire world into himself. And this absorption of the self in the other, the world, and the absorption of the world in one's own self makes it a reciprocal process. And this reciprocal process lies, I believe, at the center of Tagore's eco-consciousness. That is why, for him, it would not be logical, one logical step forward in terms of anthropocentrism to a very labored kind of biocentrism to again a rather labored kind of ecocentric point of view, if possible. It was not like that. It was an intuitive movement towards this expansion of the mind, soul, spirit, all taken together in a moment. I have so far been trying to talk about the ways, the moments which were important in the formation of his eco-consciousness. But in order to think of eco-sustainability, he needed a few more lessons. For example, I think he needed a few more lessons in the suffering of other people. He needed to know about how other people suffered because of nature too. Suppose there is a flood, suppose there is a drought, and people do die because they drown, because they don't get food, because they starve to death. And these were things which were not still very clear to Rabindranath. He needed these lessons, these practical lessons, before he could think of working towards eco-sustenance, I believe. So I would make a jump of a few years and reach the 1890s, when his father sent him to look after the family estates in Shilaidaho, Kaligram, Potishar, etc. And there, these are the Chinnopatraboli days. These are also the days when he is looking at his poor neighbors, poor rural neighbors living and dying. Earlier, he had not known much about them or anything about them, so to say. And then he gradually began to realize how the earth worked and what the relationship was between human beings and the earth. I quote from Chinnopatro, letter number 18. The translation was done by Mohit Kumar Roy. And this was a letter which was dated by Rabindranath, Kaligram, January 1891. And there he wrote, "Look at the huge earth lying over there so quietly. I love her so much that I feel like clasping in my arms her whole immensity, with her trees and foliage, rivers and meadows, her clamors and silences, mornings and evenings." And who are the earthlings? Who are the people around him? Who are his neighbors? Who is he? He says, to Mother Earth, they are the cherished treasures, these tenderly weak, pathetically tremulous, immature men. This dusty mother of ours, this our very own earth, has tenderly carried over to us in her loving arms these tear-born treasures of poor mortal children in her golden cornfields and on the banks of bountiful rivers. Yes, the rivers are bountiful. There are golden cornfields, but at the same time, earth cannot save them from starvation, from drowning to death, from floods. And he says that still I love this earth so dearly. She cannot save her own children from distress, from death. And she says, a daughter of the gods though I am, I do not have the powers of a god. I love, but I cannot protect. I begin, but I cannot complete. I give birth, but I cannot save them from the hands of death. My poor mother, so helpless, so incompetent, so imperfect, so racked by her thousand loving anxieties, I doubly love. That is what he said in this section of the Chinnopatro, of this particular Chinnopatro, number 18. Now, he had by this time, we understand, realized the sufferings that existed in human life. And that is why I would say, as a result of this, in Shilaidaho, Kaligram, Patishar, during this phase of life in the 1890s, later on even through his cooperative movement that he started over there, and much later, 1901 onwards, and especially 1920s onwards, in Sriniketan, he had been continuing with this idea of sustenance. Sustenance, not only planting trees in the barren land of Shantiniketan. We remember what Elmhurst had declared in his lecture, and Rabindranath had introduced Elmhurst's lectures once, saying that, look, we are looking at Birbhum, we are looking at Shantiniketan, Sriniketan, parts of the western side of Bengal which are so barren. People die of malaria over here all the time, and the land is without any fertility at all. But it was not such a situation earlier. This was one of the most fertile parts of the country of Bengal. How did it happen that it had degenerated into this condition? And he talked about his imagination that perhaps once upon a time there was water on a place like on the moon, and then because of our nature, because of our innate human nature, or the creatures that there were, they would devour everything and leave nothing sustainable for the future generation. And too much consumption without thinking of the future, without thinking of sustenance, means sooner or later, everything is consumed. It is as if the fuel that keeps us going is consumed to the end. And then there is nothing left but ashes. So he saw the future, unchecked future of humanity in this way. And he gave the specific example of this part of Birbhum, saying that this is what I don't want. This is what I want Birbhum, Shantiniketan, Sriniketan to return to life, not only the people, but the place itself. And that is why, to regain the fertility of the soil, to regain life, he sent his own son, as we all know, to study agriculture. He could have sent him to Oxford or Cambridge in order to study literature, the arts, the finer arts, many things. But he sent him deliberately, and a few of the other chosen people closest to his family, to learn agriculture in the USA. And the results thereof were seen. Vishwabharati at the very beginning had adopted 50 villages in the neighborhood. And these neighborhood villages were moribund villages. The villagers were dying like anything. They were not like human beings when Rabindranath Tagore adopted these villages. And Vishwabharati continues to have these villages under its purview, in spite of the changes in the political situation, independence, the government taking care of, through the panchayat system, the villages and everything. Vishwabharati still continues to cater to the sustainable needs, for example, education, health, many things that would be so very important to various UN ideas or world Earth Summit ideas or millennial goals, for example. Those kinds of ideas were foreseen so that the land, the water could be reclaimed from its moribund condition. The people could be brought back to life. They could be healthy people living, surviving on their own. And if this is not eco-sustenance, then perhaps it is very difficult for us to think of an eco-sustainable way of life today. I will end by just mentioning that when I first thought of speaking about this subject to you today, I had thought of calling this paper Rabindranath Tagore, A Rare Human Existence. I chose this title, earlier version of the title, for a very particular reason. This is something of a rarity. Not all human beings would be able to think of their surroundings, their adopted surroundings even. He was born in Kolkata after all. So wherever he had been to, be it Kaligram, be it Shilaidaho, be it Birbhum, he had adopted the place. He had become one with the place. And this is something of a very rare nature that we find in a human being. And that is why I wanted to talk about this rare human existence. But perhaps the idea of eco-consciousness and eco-sustenance is a part of my idea of Rabindranath's humanity. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Debarati Bandhapadhyay, for your vision, for your conceptualization from the anthropocentric to the biocentric to the ecocentric approach. And you have nicely elaborated the eco-consciousness as well as the eco-sustenance.
Thank you.
When you are presenting at that time, I am
Mhm.
thinking of one basic concept in psychology, that is the Gestalt perception. And there we find that the figure and ground relationship. So when me and my environment is different, then I have developed some turbulent flow in me. But when I will feel that my environment and me same one, then I will feel the laminar flow in my consciousness. So this is the important area of Rabindric psychotherapy. So if you look at our logo, you will find that is the stimulus is coming to our Murto layer. It causes change. Next, it moves to the Rag layer. And at that time, the stimulus properties, they are changing due to the different type of colors on it. And the last phase is the stimulus and me. There is no difference. So that is the Saraswat layer. You have covered this Saraswat layer very nicely. The Tagore once have written one poem. I translated it in this way. The eye that flows on the waves of time under the sky, I am watching at it. That eye moves like moving picture, and I am watching at it as silent poet. This I is not that I am within me. I am not floating like dead. I am free, satisfied, peaceful, and lighted. I am watching at it. So that is this is my translation of Tagore's poem. Here you will find two selves. One self is the free-floated real being. Another self is the detached being. So it depends upon whether I will perceive the environment as the detached being or as the free-floated real being. It depends on that. Thank you, Professor Bandhapadhyay, for your nice presentation. I have tried at my best to relate my Rabindric psychotherapy postulates as well as the logo of the Rabindric psychotherapy. So I have developed this mandala theory of Rabindric psychotherapy based upon my own counseling, my own psychotherapy, which is totally different from the Western philosophy, totally different from the theories that gives importance on the bounded consciousness. But my theory is basically the unbounded consciousness, And I have noted that is, if I make free the consciousness of my client, I have noted that is the client is able to reconstruct the different ideas in such a fashion so that the client is able to solve his own personal problem. And so this is my perception about the Rabindra's psychotherapy. Now,
Sir, I have learned such a lot from you today. In terms of the explanation of the logo, after what I tried to talk about, I've learned such a lot from you today. I am very grateful to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, madam. You have nicely covered Jibon Sriti. I like Jibon Sriti. And most of the time when I get the chance, I am reading the Jibon Sriti again and again and again. But you have mentioned Professor Sudhir Kakkar's ideas, and I have some different connotations from his ideas about Rabindranath Tagore, because I have developed my own ideas based upon my own counseling, by my own perception, and especially this topological theory of consciousness and that is developed by me. So this I can share. So if I get chance, I will talk to you more. I will discuss many things with you for your valuable contribution. I hope in near future, you will be able to contribute some new ideas from the Rabindra's psychotherapy approach. Thank you, madam.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now I am requesting the audience, you are here. If you have any observation or any suggestion, you can raise it. So here I find
Sir Monjishta here.
Yes, Monjishta. Monjishta is my student, and Monjishta has done research on the memory. So, Madam Bandhapadhyay, you have discussed about the memory. Monjishta has done research. Yeah. Yes, Monjishta.
First of all, thank you very much for that wonderful session. That I am not really attuned to Rabindra's psychotherapy as such, but I have been one of Sir's older students. But today, it was a kind of eye-opener. It was a fabulous session, ma'am. I mean, from Rabindranath's writings and all, we've the Jol Pore Pata Nore reference that you've given, we've all read that when we were kids and all, but it has so much of depth, the knowledge behind it. It was, ma'am, really an exceptional idea that you generated in us. And so I would really want to thank you from the bottom of my heart, and also thank Sir for organizing such a wonderful session. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Monjishta. Please introduce yourself so that other people can.
Yes, I am Monjishta Shurroy Chaudhary, and I have done my PhD under Dr. Devdulal Datura way back. And I was one of the first, students from the Department of Psychology at Indian Statistical Institute. Now I'm currently, I'm not really related to pure psychology anymore. I've been teaching human resource management and organizational behavior at J.D. Birla Institute Department of Management for quite a few years now. So though I've really shifted from the hardcore, pure psychological background, I'm still a lot into counseling. And because of whatever I've learned from Sir, the tiny things of the thought processes and the ideas that have been really ingrained in me. So whatever little bit of psychology I know, all credit goes to Sir. And thank you very much. I think, Sir, that should be all. Thank you
Yes,
so much for this.
during her PhD tenure, she has received the Young Scientist Award from Indian Science Congress Association. I think in 2000. Am I?
2001, Sir. 2001.
2001. Okay, 2001.
2001.
Acquaintances.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you, Manju.
Thank you very much, ma'am. It was very nice.
Thank you.
And Bhaktiyar, would you like to say a few? Bhaktiyar, are you here? Yes, Bhaktiyar. Please introduce yourself and say a few words.
Well, it was kind of a new experience for me. Though I'm a Bengali by birth, I'm not exposed to any kind of philosophy by Rabindranath Tagore. And that's quite because more often than not, I've stayed outside of Bengal. So this was quite enlightening and good experience for me. Just to say that sometimes both to you, sir, and Ms. Bandhapadhyay, at times you use native language, and it will be nice of you if you can immediately translate whatever you have communicated. That's because often in these programs you will find people who are not very comfortable or are people with different native languages. So that's the only thing, but otherwise it was a very soothing experience for me. It was good. I'm basically a OD practitioner. I'm into organization development, and I research in the similar space. And thanks to Dr. Datta Roy, he kind of introduced me to his trust. And that's how I know a lot of work that he has been doing in this space.
Thank you, Bhaktiyar. Thank you, Bhaktiyar.
Thank you for your comments. I welcome them, but at the same time, I must point out that in this particular case, whenever I used an expression like, say, Jal pore patanar or Brishti pore tapur tupur, I had already given Surendranath Tagore's translation of Rabindranath's rendering of these words, and then I had come back to the original Bangla. So I had anticipated your query, answered it beforehand, and then gone on to the Bangla. So that is a disclaimer kind of thing.
Bhaktiyar, actually, in this program, we have included both Bengali and English. Okay. So we have maintained that one, and Madam has covered that line. Okay. Thank you, Bhaktiyar. Bhaktiyar is a product of Indian Statistical Institute. So now he is very busy in the statistical quality control operation research, etc. And now I am requesting our Professor Muhammad Kamaluddin sir. Sir, are you here? Professor Kamaluddin sir.
I have
Sir, apni bolun, apni na bolle to amader অসম্পূর্ণ থেকে যাবে. Okay, so please sir, please. Professor Kamaluddin sir.
Thank you so much, sir.
Yes,
it was
sir.
Very nice presentation of Dr. Debarati Bandhapadhyay. I was keenly listening to all the details, especially she has tried to make science and literature together, and referring to ecosystem ecology, that was a fantastic point. I loved it. and basically language has barrier. So what I have felt I cannot explain in words. Definitely the presentation was fantastic, and it was not so easy to relate literature to science, and she has tried very nicely, and I found her presentation is complete. So with these few words I express my gratitude to you and also to the presenter. It was really nice. It was really brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
And I must compliment Ms. Bandhapadhyay for her style of narration. I was totally impressed by her style of narration. I was expecting a little more academic kind of style, but it was more so of a commoner. And all that I could say is I enjoyed it.
Okay, thank you. Miss Rumela Sengupta is here. She is from Netherlands, and actually maybe this is not the right time for her, but still she has spent all that time for this lecture. Miss Rumela Sengupta, please you share your views.
Yes, for me, good morning, everybody. Probably good afternoon already. No, it's still good morning in India and also Bangladesh. So for me, the webinar started at 5 a.m. in the morning because I'm 4.5 hours behind India and 5 hours behind Bangladesh. In between, I missed about half an hour of your talk, Ms. Bandhapadhyay, because I had to take care of certain things at home. 6 o'clock to 6:30 is usually the morning for me here. But I loved your talk. Is a recording available? Because I saw you used YouTube Live. So would a recording be available?
Yeah, sure. It is already in YouTube. So your version, your talk, that is everything in the YouTube now.
Okay, because I'd love to listen to the talk once again. I mean, you were brilliant, I must say. And to Bakhtiyar. Oh, incidentally, I'm also, as Professor Roy called Bakhtiyar a product of Indian Statistical Institute. I'm also a product of ISI. BStat, MStat, 1992 to 1997, a long time ago. And one of my juniors, she's from Bangladesh, Anandamoyi Mojumdar. Maybe Professor Kamaluddin might know of her. I'm not sure.
Where she's working, ma'am?
She is right now working at IUB.
Oh,
she's a professor of
University
statistics
of Bangladesh, but definitely I will recognize.
Yeah. So Anando and I, when we were in ISI, Anando also sings very beautifully. So that was when I sort of got really drawn into the beauty. I mean, as a Bengali, you always hear Rabindra Sangit. Every pujo there is Chitrangada, Shama, Chandalika in every pujo. So you grow up listening to Rabindra Sangit all the time. But when Anando sang, I really got into the meaning and the, as Professor Roy mentioned, the raga layer. Yeah, the raga and the Saraswat layer. I mean, I could feel that when Anando used to sing. And way later, when I came to the Netherlands in 2009, around Diwali of 2009, I translated a poem to share with my Dutch colleagues in the Netherlands, the Dipalikae Jalawalo. I forget the first line. Anyway, so that was the start of a translation journey that lasted 10 years. So from 2009 to 2019, Anando and I have together translated 1,000 songs of Tagore.
Great.
So for folks like Bakhtiyar, the 1,000 songs in English are available on a blog. I can share the link of the blog in a chat. So you can find the songs labeled by the same categories that are there in Gita Vitan. So Pujo, devotion, prem, love, Prakriti, nature, Swadesh, Motherland, what else? Puja and Prem, Devotion and Love. So all of them by labels are available on the blog. So you feel free to go ahead and discover Tagore in English. And we are sort of fingers crossed. We will also publish those songs in book format soon. Fingers crossed.
Absolutely lovely. Great work.
So we are thankful to Rumela. You are here and you have very nicely covered your one thing that I think you know very much, that is Rabindranath Tagore was introduced in Netherlands by one
Frederick van Eyden. Frederick van Eyden.
Achha, Frederick van Eyden. Okay. So thank you. Once Rabindranath Tagore in Netherlands, and we find Rumela from Netherlands.
And the interesting thing is, Rabindranath came to the Netherlands in 1920, so exactly 100 years ago.
Oh, achha. Wow, beautiful. Dr. Rabindra Kumar. Dr. Rabindra Kumar Srivastava,
good morning to all of you.
Yeah.
Myself, Dr. Ravindra Kumar, from Faculty of Liberal Art in ICFI University, Agartala. Actually, sir, you know, previously I was in Mewar University in the Department of Psychology. So by your blessings, in this October, I joined this university in Agartala. So it is my, I will say, I think third online webinar, which is conducted by Rabindric Psychotherapeutic Research Institute. During lockdown, I also attended a webinar or orientation program on positive psychology also. So as it was the topic of the day, so I am very much impressed by the lecture given by Debarati ma'am. And because how we can make a balance between ecology and our thoughts. So ma'am has elaborated in a very good manner. I appreciate ma'am, and thank you. And thank you to Datta Roy sir to organize such events on weekly basis, sometimes on, I will say, on 12, 15 days or monthly. So I'm also, sir, very very influenced by the thoughts of Rabindranath Tagore. And you know, my name is also starting from Ravindra Kumar. So definitely I will definitely I will be very impressed, sir. And you know, sir, when I one day I visited Agartala, so there is a Ujjanta Palace. So when I was there in a eco park, so everywhere there was a Rabindra Sangeet, sir. So my one of my friend, Dr. Ramkrishna Ghosh, I think he is also online available. He was also with me at Mewar University. So often we had a talk about this Sangeet, sir. What is this Sangeet? Because my name is Ravindra, so how can I understand this? But because the language issue was, I am not comfortable in Bengali. I use मैं हिंदी और इंग्लिश ही केवल यूज करता हूँ, तो एक चीज है. So thank you sir, और thank you Debarati ma'am and all the participants जो different parts से आए हैं इंडिया से सब लोग, ma'am from Netherlands. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Ravindra Kumar. Just now I have received the blog, okay, of Dr. Ms. Rumela Sengupta. That is the Gito Bitan -enn.blogspot.com. So http:// then GITA BITAN -en.blogspot.com. Then /
The EN stands for English. I mean, the international abbreviation for English is EN. So it's Gitabitan in English.blogspot.com.
So in future, it will be DU, right?
NL. Netherlands, the Dutch language is called Nederlands in the Netherlands. So the short form is NL.
Acha, acha. Okay. Thank you. So we have learned many things from you. Professor Gaur Gopal Bonik is here. Gaur Gopal, Bishon Sundar Rabindrasangit guy. Gaur Gopal, are you here? Gaur Gopal? Gaur Gopal, are you here? Professor Gaur Gopal from Tripura. He is in the field of management. Once upon a time, I taught him about the qualitative psychology, qualitative research method in organizational behavior. Possibly he is busy now, and very nice person. Okay, we miss. Provesh, Provesh, are you here? Do you want to say something, Provesh? No, Provesh also not here. Okay, I think nobody is here. Puja Patro, do you want to say? No. Nokia 7.2, I do not know who is the. Okay. So here, Mr. Shivaji Basu from Neutia University, he also appreciated the lecture of Dr. Bandhapadhyay very nicely. He left and he has written, sir, wonderfully conceived your PPTs and especially your guest lecturer, Dr. Debarati Bandhapadhyay. Unfortunately, I have to leave the session as my own online tuition in Shita starts now at. So she has left. Okay, so we have covered very nicely the one major goal of the UNESCO, that is the environmental sustainability, eco-sustenance, and we all were listening. Acha, Ramkrishna Ghosh, would you like to say a few words, Ramkrishna Babu? Ramkrishna Ghosh? Ramkrishna Ghosh, please you unmute so that you can share. Yes.
Yes, yes, sir. Good morning to all of you. Sir, firstly, I will say that it was a very good interaction with all the people. And as Dr. Ravindra sir has said, we were working in Mewar University. So right now I'm working in Mangalatin University, Aligarh. And my subject is visual art, and I'm an artist. And specialization is modeling and sculpture. So I'm working in Mangalatin University as an assistant professor in the Department of Visual and Performing Arts.
Okay.
And in January, I was presenting my topic in Jadavpur University, Kolkata. And the topic was rethinking Rabindranath Tagore. So whatever ma'am has said, it was excellent. And I have learned a lot from this session. And really, I'm delighted. Next time, if I get a chance to participate in this kind of program, I'll be very happy. And let me know if there is such program. And overall, it was excellent. Really, I have learned a lot. And definitely in the future, I'll be ready to participate in this kind of program. It was excellent, sir. Really excellent. Wonderful.
Thank you, Dr. Ghosh.
Thank you, sir.
In Ravindric Psychotherapy Research Institute, we have the story therapy course, dance therapy course, drawing
Yes.
therapy.
Yes,
So
yes, yes.
giving importance on the visual arts, etc.
Yes, yes.
So if you get chance, you
Yes.
can give one lecture in this Sunday webinar.
Okay.
So if you think that is your presentation is already ready for launching, then there will be no problem at all. So
Okay, right.
that is some the only the thing that is you have to submit your abstract.
Yes, right.
To my email address rpri.edu@gmail.com. You will send your abstract, your picture, your biodata, etc.
Okay.
And
Yes.
then we will think of the particular day for your presentation. Okay.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank
You
you.
so much. Thank you so much.
So now we have to conclude. Is there anyone want to say anything about today's topic?
Sir, we have couple of comments in the chat section.
Okay. Oh, Bhaktiyar has written, much thanks for sharing. Munjista has written, thank you very much. Galaxy, I do not know easy. Thank you. Provesh has written, it was really wonderful session. Unfortunately, I am not able to speak because I am suffering from throat infection. Oh, sorry. Sorry, Provesh. We pray for your quick recovery. We have selected Provesh as the guest faculty for our forensic psychology course. And Pooja Patro, she has written, আপনাদের প্রোগ্রামগুলো এত সুন্দর আমি মুগ্ধ হয়ে শুনি আর কবে সানডে আসবে তার জন্য ওয়েট থাকি। বাহ, এটা অপূর্ব। ভীষণ ভালো লাগলো পূজা, তুমি এত সুন্দর লিখেছো। নিশ্চয়ই আমি চেষ্টা করব যাতে প্রতি সানডেতেই আমরা যেন প্রোগ্রাম করতে পারি। আমরা খুব চেষ্টা করি আমাদের সানডেতে সানডে ওয়েবিনার। সানডে ওয়েবিনার বেসিক্যালি টু মি ইজ এ কমিটমেন্ট টু দ্য সোসাইটি। মানে আমাকে ধরুন আজকে from tomorrow I will start for the next Sunday webinar, and I have to prepare my institute in such a fashion so that I can present some of the achievement of my institute in the next Sunday webinar. So it is very, very challenging to be, because I am committed to the society. This is my feeling, okay? And many people are benefited to the Sunday webinar. So if you find any student, any research scholar, or any faculty who is searching for some platform to share his or her ideas, especially related to the philosophy or the vision of Rabindranath Tagore, he or she will be very much welcome to our Sunday webinar. Okay. So please you convey this to your students or your colleagues or your friends. Okay. So now I am requesting Annesha for the concluding prayer. We have the concluding prayer. Mona Lisa has started the inauguration prayer. Now I am requesting Annesha. Annesha?
Yes, sir. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purna Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, everybody. The whole program you will find in the YouTube. I will give you the YouTube link. Okay. Everything is available in the YouTube link. And we are maintaining it as an archive. So if you find any good content writer or good scholar who can understand the lecture of Madam Debarati Bandhapadhyay and other dignitaries who have presented already in this Sunday webinar, I'm very much grateful to that scholar if he or she is able to contribute the ideas, because I want to compose one book. Definitely the author will be the respective speakers. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir.
It
you,
was
everybody.
such an enriching experience for me being here today morning. Thanks to all of you, and especially to Professor Dr. Roy.
Thank you, madam. Thank you.
Thank you.